What's up guys, my name's Liam, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the brand new VAXEE PEK and the PEK GEH. These are cloth style control pads that do offer a different experience from the original PE series, and in this video I'm going to be breaking down how my experience has been with them so far, how they stack up versus some of the competition out there, and hopefully they'll be able to help you decide whether or not any one of these could possibly be the perfect mouse pad for you. So let's check it out. And before we get started today, I did want to let you know that these were sent out to me. However, everything you'll be hearing in this video is going to be my own words and my own opinions. Both the PEK and PEK GEH do come in two different colorway options. They do come either in this pink colorway. They also do have a black version. However, both of them are coming in at 510 millimeters in width by 500 millimeters in height, and they're both sitting at 3.5 millimeters in thickness. With the two different base options, starting out with the PEK, this version does come rolled up. Once I did take this out of the box and unroll it on my desk, it has been sitting flat. I haven't had any issues with it curling up on me. The one difference between both of these bases, however, is the finishing over on the back. The PEK GEH does have a stickier feeling to the back of the surface, where it does feel more rubberized, and when you do rub your finger across the surface, it clearly feels more sticky. So if you are looking for a more grippy finish on the base of your mouse pad, this might be the better version for you. The PEK GEH actually does ship in a flat box, so this version is not rolled up. However, with that being said, the one thing I have noticed is the edges, they still are kind of curled up a little bit. Nothing that I necessarily notice as I'm using it or something that has bothered me during my gameplay at all, but just something I figured that I did notice that kind of stood out to me. But aside from the finishing on the surface of the base, the properties of both of them, they feel nearly identical to one another. It does have this same PE style base, where it does have a mid feeling with a really quick rebound property. And honestly, these VAXEE pads are just some of my most used pads in general, and I really love the properties of this PE base. Both of these versions do have stitched edges. The stitching on this is very thin. It's not that wide on the actual surface of the pad itself, but it does sit at about level with the surface itself since this base is more firm. However, they do have a little patch up here in the top right hand corner. This is stitched both on the top of the pad and on the bottom of the pad, so if you were to move your mouse over there, you can feel it on the bottom of your skates, but I haven't noticed this being an issue with the way that it sticks to my desk or even hindering my gameplay as I've been using it personally. And when it comes to the surface of both of these pads, both of them do have the exact same surface, the only difference being the base between the two models of the PEK and the PEK GEH. And with that being said, on this surface, when you rub your finger across the X and the Y axis, you do notice a little bit of a texture there. I do feel like the texture along the X axis does feel just slightly a little bit more abrasive, but as I did mention, this is a cloth style feeling of a surface, and it is a pretty controlled surface, but I do feel like the dynamic glide on this pad is just a little bit quicker, as when you come down into the static friction, making the micro adjustments, I do feel like the static friction in my experience is a little bit higher than the dynamic, and you do notice a little bit more tugging there going back and forth. And with the way that the surface does perform, I feel like this is going to be a better option for a TAC FPS style of a shooter game. If you're somebody who likes to make quick flicks and then stop on the dime, I feel like this pad does give you a really great sense of stopping power with how strong the static friction is. And I have been noticing a slight difference between the pink surface and the black surface as I've been going back and forth and testing both of them. I have noticed this pink surface just all around has been coming out a little bit quicker to me. So I'll go ahead and drop a glide test comparison between both of the different color surfaces. And when it comes to comparing the PEK GEH to the previous versions of the PE and even the PE Black, I do feel like that all around that the PEK is noticeably quite a bit more controlled, and it does have a higher sense of static friction. Over here on the original PE, this kind of feels more in line of a little bit more of a balanced pad on the more controlled end of the spectrum, but I don't find myself fighting as much in the static friction, where I feel like the dynamic and static on this does feel just a little bit quicker to me. So I'll go ahead and I'll do a really quick glide test comparison, and then I'll also drop it versus the PEK Black All right, then finally, I'll be comparing it to the pad that I do feel like it feels the most similar to, which is the Artisan Type 99. And honestly, the performance of these, they do feel really similar, where they both have the high sense of static friction with a little bit of a quicker feeling on the glide for the dynamic. This kind of falls more in line similarly with the PEK black surface as far as the dynamic glide goes. I do feel like, however, on that black PEK surface that you do notice a little bit higher sense of static friction, where the static friction is just a little bit less over here on the Type 99 with the soft base. But when I did compare it over here to the pink surface, the static friction feels a little bit lower and the dynamic feels a little bit faster on this one. But really, I would say that overall that these differences are pretty minor and you're going to get a pretty similar type of an overall feeling with the performance between both of these pads. All right, guys, so that about wraps things up on these brand new VAXEE PEK pads. I have mentioned in the past that I'm not really so much a fan of the Artisan Type 99 due to the higher static friction with the faster dynamic friction, just for my personal preference, and this does kind of give you a better overall experience. Between all of these pads, I do prefer the pink surface since it does perform just a little bit quicker for me. That is something that I generally prefer myself. And though I do like the just overall build of this and the feeling of this pad, not my personal favorite surface in the world. My most used pad right now is the VAXEE PE Black. However, if you are somebody who does prefer tack shooters and you like a little bit higher of static friction or greater stopping power, then I can definitely recommend checking this out, as I feel like this would be a really solid option for you. So if you guys feel like I left anything out or have any additional questions, please let me know in the comments down below. If you have enjoyed watching this video and are interested in seeing more videos like this in the future, please drop this video a like and subscribe to my channel. And thank you guys so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.